hate to tell you this, Scott, but Mom arrived.
Mom! Hello! Mom! Happy birthday, Mom!
Oh, so
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Mom.
So, Mom,
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yay, happy birthday.
Oh my God.
Hey guys, come in.
Mickey,
if
you look
everybody
like you're in
can-
pink fatigue.
if everybody
That's the
can
view from
mute
our
their
dock.
audio, we will jump into this because we've got
Our
a
deck,
lot.
brother.
We've got a lot to look forward to. Mom, obviously, because we couldn't get together in person, we decided to throw you a surprise birthday party. Not a total
I am
surprise. but the
surprised.
surprise, obviously, is that we've gone well beyond the nuclear family and cast the net a little bit wider. We brought together family and friends from, I think, all of your 8 decades and many different corners of the world. So you are going to have to sit back and enjoy some serious well-wishing. As some of you guys on the call probably know, we were originally going to be celebrating this day in Yellowstone National Park. But then COVID happened, so we had to improvise. And luckily, everybody for the ensuing months, and let me just ask one more time, if people can mute their audio now, and then because you guys all seem to know how to do it, unmute your audio as we get to your opportunity to speak. And everybody will have an opportunity to speak. But luckily, because everybody is so good at Zoom, if there is an upside to this, it's that so many people were able to come and join for this really special day. I should also mention that we're recording this. I hope we're recording this. I tried to record this so that if anyone couldn't make it, or if anybody just wants a copy, we can share that with you afterwards. We put together a slide deck that will accompany everyone's remarks. So hopefully you're seeing that image of my mom through the years right now. And thanks to everybody that contributed, in particular, Paki, Erica Wurtz, Okahide Hikusaka, Ty Otis, Ed Fitzgibbons, all of you guys gave extra photos, and thank you for sharing those with the group. The quick ground rules again, there's about 40 of us on the Zoom, so everyone will be muted, and you guys all very obviously can self-mute. I thought I was gonna have to manage that, so thank you for self-muting until your slide comes up, at which point you can unmute yourself and then speak. There's also, for those of you that are adept with Zoom, there's a chat function, which my sister Sarah is going to be monitoring. So if you have a question or a comment or something that you'd like to say to Mom, you can also type it in there and we'll share that. I'd ask everybody to try to stay below a minute. There will be no punishments for people that go over, but we do want to get to everybody, and we want to get to Mom. We want to get Mom to bed at a decent hour because she's 80 years old. We broke the slides down into the different geographic regions of Mom's life. So there's St. Paul, New Haven, St. Louis, and DC. And after each one of those cities, we'll pause so that if I've skipped over anybody who wants to speak, they'll have that chance.
Scott,
Mom, there's a slide for you too at the very end. So just be prepared for that.
Scott,
and with that,
Scott, can you hear me?
I'm sorry?
Can you hear me, Scott?
Yeah.
We cannot see your slides.
You can't see the slides?
No.
Oh, that's weird. You can't see the slides.
At the bottom, hit share.
So Sarah, this is Karen. We can see his slides.
We can see it too.
I can see the slides.
Good. Maybe you got to hit
Okay.
that.
I can see them too. I think you just have to switch to slide share mode.
Thanks for the heart attack though, sis. Always helpful. So we will start with St. Paul, which is where my mom began. And I'm going to hand it off to Paki, her brother, to get things started. Paki, can you unmute yourself? Oh no, did we lose Paki? Maybe I can unmute him.
Nobody. Nobody.
Okay. He's not.
Pocky, are you getting a message to unmute yourself now? Todd, are you there?
No.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm going to skip ahead. Oh, even though I love those pictures. Todd, are you there?
Yes, we're here. Karen and I are here.
Great.
It highlights the person
Yes, I
speaking. Okay, I have a brief poem, and I want you to listen to the title because I think it says about why we're all here. It's called Lucky Us. Since it's never about her, I offer a fraternal purr. This little ode's about my sister, so listen up, dear mister. The first two people she did bless were mom and dad, we must confess. She swelled their hearts beyond compare. Her parents judged her very rare. Then Pac and I came along. Unthreatened, she said, "You belong." She played with Pac and pampered Todd and taught us nastiness was odd. At Summit School, she was a pearl with many friends like Mary Earl. She studied hard and learned a lot. And Radcliffe said, "Look whom we got." Flash forward to a marvelous trio, her children full of grace and brio. Sarah, Will, and Scott so lucky, drenched in love since Rubber Ducky. And brilliant.
God, can you hear me?
And brilliant Bob, her thankful hub, his lucky back so loves the rub. He swoons with joy, and now this is living. But wait, my sister keeps on giving. There's Danbury, our sacred place. New floors and dishes for that space. We'll give the playset for our nest. Her generosity can't rest. No doubt she surely has a flaw. Like, there is one. Nah. No need to bother. She's simply perfect, spake my father. Oh yes, she can discriminate, with most to love and one to hate. Extended family is just swell, but Donald Trump can go to hell. So thank you, sis, you are the best. I'll say again, we're truly blessed. Now at the tender age of 80, you remain an awesome lady. Happy birthday, sis, we love you.
Oh, thank you, Todd. Oh.
God,
Yeah.
God,
Doesn't matter.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Pac.
Well, I don't know what happened, but I hate to follow that, but I will. I have a wonderful sister. So does my brother. I remember one time skating in our backyard rink, and I had hockey skates, and she was a good figure skater, and I followed her around making fun of her. I was a Chevy Chase on blades, and she was very nice about it, just laughed. We wondered why she did so well in school. The secret was she'd read a chapter that was assigned, close the book, close her eyes, and review the chapter in her mind. Unbelievable. I had a bad time in 2000, and she was there, 100%. So was Todd. It's in the hard times that friends and family either step up to the plate or disappear. And I'm so blessed to have two siblings who stepped up the plate. They truly showed their love. I agree with my brother. I couldn't have a better sister anyway. If this were a roast, I'd be speechless. And that doesn't happen. I'm finished.
Thank you, Pac. Next up, if we can grab you from the car, is one of Mom's dearest friends from her St. Paul days and since, Mary Earl Rollwagon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. And see
Oh,
you.
wonderful. And I have a picture of Emily right in front of me, so it's great. So, Emily, I want you to know that right now I am on my way to Amon Lake. We did a lot of fun things at Amon Lake, way up in northern Minnesota, on a lake that has very few people and is a wonderful place to be. So I'm thinking of you and all the things that we did, and I hope everything will go well for you. I'm just a little bit ahead of you, being 80 years old plus a couple of weeks. And so I hope everything goes very well for that.
Thank you and enjoy Amon Lake.
Thank you, Mary Earl.
Okay. So now.
Next, we have one of Mom's dear cousins, Danny, and I don't think Alicia can be with us, but I might be mistaken, Danny's wife. But Danny, if you're there and can join us.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Scott. Alicia sends her love. I'm afraid she has a board meeting this evening. But Em, happy birthday. I don't know how you can condense 78 years of love and affection into 1 minute, but I'm going to try. Alicia and I agree that one of the experiences in our relationship that was really spectacular was when we played Cupid for you, if you remember. It was January 1981, and you sent a message to us asking if you could come stay with us for a few days in Washington, D.C. And of course, we were delighted that you wanted to come and reconnect with your cousin. So of course, we said yes. So you came, and we rather quickly realized that it may not have been only to reconnect with your cousin that had brought you to Washington. If you remember, it was a Saturday evening at 6:30 at night, and there was a knock on our door. And I opened the door, and there was this handsome, youngish fellow who said, Danny, I'm Bob Wurtz, and Emily has invited me to your wine and cheese party this evening. I was a little nonplussed because we were not having a wine and cheese party that evening. And I'm wondering if there was something behind that. But Bob came in and was very congenial, and he was very cordial and invited you, as you know, to dinner in Georgetown. And you went, and when you came back, Alicia and I noticed a decided glow on your face. The next morning at 9:30, knock at the door, Bob Wurtz was there. He took you on a whirlwind tour of Washington. He took you to dinner, and when you came home, the glow was even deeper. The third morning, knock at the door, Bob Wurtz was there, another whirlwind tour, and then you came to dinner at our house. And at the end of dinner, I still remember you looked at one another and you said, we think we're going to go for a stroll in your beautiful neighborhood. It was January. It was freezing. But you went for your stroll, and when you came back, we knew it was a done deal because you both were glowing, and you've been glowing ever since. So happy birthday and love to you all.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you very much. I remember well, it was sub-zero.
Thank you, Danny. Wally, are you there? Are you with us?
Yes, he's here. I'm going to hand him the phone.
Okay.
Hold on.
This is a real pleasure for me because I was embarrassed by the last time I had any kind of conversations with any of the Otis family, aside from Todd, who owed me some money, and then that got going for a while. But the truth of the matter is, the Otis side of the family, this was a unique relationship that started for generations. There are about 3 sets of people who constantly got together in the summertime, although not always together, and it was unique. I don't remember anybody else who's ever had gone to a place where you could walk in the door and know 3/4 of the people there and not have any idea who the other 2/3 were. So it was absolutely wonderful. And I tried to mimic it several times in the future, and particularly with my own younger kids, all of whom were boys, and really didn't know much about it. But I used to tell them that when I would get a present from somebody that was a towel or something from an Indian boys group, which I had been sort of looking after, and talk about it, and they thought that was kind of interesting. And finally, my youngest grandson took it pretty close at those pieces of paper, and mostly the service that the things that they wore, and they looked at these things, and I said, "Oh, these are the Indian boys' things, so you take care of them, boys." And they said, "Well, okay," but they looked at it a little closer, and they asked Pocky, why was it quite the way it was? The clothes and so on and so forth. And they said, Baba, and they called me Baba. That was not a good thing to do, but they called me Baba, and they looked at it, and they looked at these things, and they said, "Oh, Baba, I don't quite understand it. I didn't know there were any Indian boys in China." So that was the end of my career as a introductory. And love you dearly, and anytime you want to come to China, let me know.
Thanks, Wally.
Thank you, Wally. Betsy, another of my mother's cousins. Betsy, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, and see you.
Okay. Oh, I love that picture. Well, happy birthday, Emily.
Thank you.
My earliest memory of Emily is actually a St. Paul Christmas. My family used to drive up from Wisconsin Rapids and join the rest of the family in St. Paul. And one of the things we would do in St. Paul during the Christmas season would be to go to the Otis's house, where they had flooded their backyard. Pac mentioned this, and because Emily liked to skate. And so we would go visit, and it turns out that Emily was a very good figure skater. She may still be. So that memory of Emily skating on their backyard rink is very strong. Now go ahead several decades, many decades, to Danbury. So we're really lucky to overlap with Emily and sometimes Bob at Danbury. And on her way to Danbury, as she was coming, Emily would frequently stop at the bakery, probably in Hinckley, and get some sweet, gooey, wonderful breakfast goodies that we love to share. Then she would, when she arrived at the cabin, she would go right to the kitchen and start working on her wild rice salad that was of her own creation. It was wonderful. I'd never had it before and have not had it since, but Emily would do that first thing at Danbury. Then she would head down to the beach and hop into her kayak or into the canoe and go out on the lake. So Emily can skate, and she can cook, and she can paddle. So what more? Happy birthday, Emily.
Thanks, Betsy.
Thank you, Betsy. Next up is Sally. Sally, I saw you pop up. Sally Brew.
So here is a really lovely picture of you, Emily. as a bridesmaid at Dave's and my wedding 62 years ago. And I have to say, you certainly have hardly changed, certainly not in spirit. And I'd like to, yeah, what Betsy had to say, I share the same experiences with you. So a happy 80th and enjoy the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Sal.
Thanks, Sally. Next up is, I think, Chef Otis, Mom's nephew. He was, I know, going to be constrained for bandwidth. I don't know if, Chef, were you able to call in? Let me scroll down very quickly.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Unmuting myself helps. Well, hey, thank you for putting this together, by the way, cuz. Auntie M, this is great learning about you, hearing stories about you. I actually have been in on the whole session. I don't have a story specifically, but what I can say is that every time I've been around you, you have done nothing but draw out the best in everyone around you. I mean, including myself. I mean, that's you're the kind of person who with energy and so much love just puts others first and has, you know, we all know you have a wide spanning intellectual curiosity, but it also goes to you know, personal relationships as well. So I've really appreciated your outreach over the years and your love. And I also, one thing that's really kind of left a mark, maybe physically, is your hug. The fact that when you hug, you hug with a vengeance, you know. And when I was smaller, I thought my head was going to fall off. But that in that hug is so much love and so much joy, and you know, it really speaks to you and you know, the wonderful people you come from. I see you in or I see pieces of you that come from Boo, and I see pieces of you that have gone into your kids who are among my favorite 3 people in the world, I have to say. You know, if this is the venue to do it, I'm more than happy to let that out. So anyway, love you so much. Happy 80th, and I wish you 80 more.
Thank you, Chef.
All right.
Thank you, Chef. Next up is another of my mother's nephews, Chef's brother, Ty.
Hi. Yeah, I have kind of a specific memory. A few years ago, I was playing music for a play, and I was telling my aunt about the music director, who happens to be North America's foremost authority on the Northumbrian bagpipes, by the name of Richard Hensold. Emily had made a joke. It was a pun on his last name, that to play the bagpipes, he must be prehensile, so Hensold, Hensel. And I laughed. A few moments later, she fished out of me that I didn't actually know what prehensile meant, but I had still laughed at the joke. So a deft little dagger. The thing is that I had learned and forgotten prehensile in a sterile classroom, but in the gently charged environment of my aunt's spirit of fun and good-natured razzing, the meaning has stuck with me very well since. So kind of a specific memory, but happy 80th.
Oh, thank you, Ty.
Thanks, Ty. And Ty, thanks again for all the great pictures. Catherine Otis, are you on the line? This is my mother's niece, daughter of Todd.
At Denver, right? The kids are little.
Yeah.
Catherine's little. Chef is little.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, and Ty is very little in that picture. As Catherine pointed out to me, Ty is actually inside Caroline in that picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Chef.
I just want to say happy birthday, Emily, and I wrote a little something about our last visit together in San Francisco, so I want to share that with you. When I gave birth to my son Elliot in 2016, I decided to pause my career as a yoga teacher and actress and lean into the biggest job title that I've had yet, mom. Initially, that decision was challenging for me as it felt my whole life and my whole self-worth had shrunk down to how many fluid ounces I could pump on a given day. And that's when Emily emailed me that she and Bob would be in San Francisco and would I like to meet up. How could my Aunt Emily, who's always been sort of a giant in my own mind, who chose to continue her professional career with not one, but 3 kids, how could she relate to my situation as a stay-at-home mom? And soon the day came and we were eating Vietnamese takeout food on the playground across the street from the ferry building, and Bob had taken over the swinging duty with baby Elliot.
That's good.
And we got to talking about how I'd been clinging to my writing practice as a new mom and how I needed intellectual stimulation after endless hours of old McDonald's. And she said to me, you know, it's not easy for any mother, for a woman who works full-time but feels she's missing out on watching her kids grow up, or the mom like you who stays home with her children but feels she's missing out on her life. And she then continued to explain how lucky she felt about being able to work part-time when her children were little, and what a gift I was giving to Elliot by giving him my presence. And I felt relieved knowing I wasn't alone in this feeling of missing out on something. And it became clear to me that the path of motherhood is unique for each woman. And I will always treasure that visit that we had with Aunt Emily and Bob and the affirmation that I felt that I was on my right path. Thank you.
Catherine, I'm so glad you felt that way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine. And now, Catherine's sister, Madeline Campbell.
Hey, everybody. So what most stands out to me, I wrote my remarks as well because I could talk probably for hours about Auntie M.
Yeah, I know.
What stands out to me most about her is the question she asks. She is a unapologetic and voracious asker. I've kind of observed that there are family cultures that either foster asking or just sort of observing. And Auntie M sort of showed me that the type of family culture I want to foster and that she has so clearly fostered is one of asking. And her questions are always well considered and well timed, even when you least expect them or when you haven't had enough coffee yet. And I just have cherished that real talk that has so defined different chapters of our relationship, whether it was over, you know, coffee, not enough, at the Danbury table, or during the chapter when I got to stay with Bob and Auntie M living in Washington, D.C. while I was working in Washington, D.C. for a few months. So some of her juiciest questions have stayed with me. For example, as I was finishing my PhD, she said, what is anthropology these days? And I thought it was such an informed question, you know, and so I don't know if she was up for it, but it, you know, started this whole sort of pontification about the field's swings from one extreme to the other. And she was just totally game to hear me out because she knew I cared, and so she cared. And another example of a great question was after I had twins, Auntie M, who I sometimes think of as my twinspiration, asked me, are the kids quite old enough for you to take more of a responsibility with Danbury? And that's an example of a question that I knew she cared about. So I leapt to say, oh yes. But just like Katie was saying, she is so empathetic that her questions are just the best. And so they just telegraph to all the people that she's talking to a depth of curiosity and attention and generosity that I didn't know I was missing with relationship with non-askers. And so Auntie M, thank you for showing me the kindness of a well-asked question again and again and inspiring a standard to live into. Happiest of birthdays.
Oh, Maddie, we loved your years living with us.
It was great.
Thank you, Maddie. We are now going to leave St. Paul and go to the New Haven years. And Starting this off is Christina Vallinger, who was our au pair, so we all knew her very well. And she's been a dear, dear friend ever since. And to say she was our favorite au pair of all time is an understatement. So I'm hoping, I know she's on an island off the coast of Sweden, so she also is going to be bandwidth constrained. Christina, are you there? I knew this would be a possibility, and she said something quite lovely, and she sent it in a video. But one of the things about Zoom, or my ability to work with Zoom, is that the audio on the videos didn't come across. So this might be a bit ridiculous, but I'm going to try to voice over the spoken word part of her address to you, Mom. She shot this video, and then it's followed by a little animated slideshow that they put together for you. So bear with my performance. My dearest darling Emily, and a happy birthday to you. Can you believe that we've been friends for 50 years and we're always so happy together? I wanted to tell you what you did for me, which I didn't understand back then. And that was being such a wonderful mother to your children. I think your motto was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I took that with me back home. And it was a very, very important thing. And did we get wonderful children or not? Yes, we did. Love you.
Oh, that's great.
That's really nice.
That's a picture I took at a dinner she gave in Stockholm recently.
A year ago.
Oh, this is a lot of pictures.
A year ago is very recent.
There, that was the best.
And I don't know if you guys can hear it, but that is accompanied by endless applause. So thank you, Christina. Another one of Mom's dear friends from the New Haven days, and someone she's friends with still, and who recently, she's a company I know in New York, is Lane English, who we had to really go a long way to track down, and I'm so glad we found her. So Lane, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Hi, Em. You helped me so much in my beginning of my life and all the way through. I love the fact that we found each other and felt fairly similar about raising children. And since we had quite a few children between us, sharing your children and taking care of them while you had a little free time and vice versa was wonderful. And it also led me into, well, after some microbiology, but anyhow, it led me into teaching, which was really a joy of my life. And I was so happy to have had that experience in the beginning of the fun of young kids, and then doing it my whole life. So I certainly miss you from here, but it was great fun to meet you in New York. We had just a wonderful dinner together, and it was a lovely, lovely day. So I thank you so much for sharing my children and your children, and just making the beginning of my life so easy, because my parents didn't really talk about raising children or anything like that. And so I had no idea of what the heck I was doing. So you certainly helped me through that bump. All my love and happy birthday.
Thanks, Lane.
And Lane, your kids turned out phenomenally too. My brother and I knew them, and they were really amazing kids, and very much like you. So now we, let me pause, and I should have done this before. If there's anyone from the New Haven days or the St. Paul days that wanted to speak that I skipped over. Let me just pause briefly for anyone who does want to say something. If not, we have many cities still to come. All right, so in St. Louis, when the family moved to St. Louis, we got a new, this introduces another side of our family. And we'll start with my mom's sister-in-law, Meishe.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, this picture of you, I think, was taken maybe in the Smoky Mountains, but I just wanted you to know that it was one my mother chose to take with her when she moved from her home into a residence. And I think having these family pictures there was a great comfort to her in what unfortunately was a rather alien environment. Now, there was another picture that didn't make the cut, but it's a picture of you from Grant's and my wedding in the stifling summer of 1969. And Katie Thatch is also in the picture. We want you to know, Emily, Grant and I both want you to know how we were grateful to you and still are grateful for your support during that turbulent, politically charged time. You were there for us in Oklahoma in 90-degree heat. You were our maid of honor. Unfortunately, the dress we chose for you was of a very heavy material. You were 6.5 months pregnant, but you were a great support and you were a great sport. And we thank you very much and happy birthday. Grant is just opening a bottle of champagne and we are toasting you. Oh, Meishe, thank you. Happy 80th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meishe. And that picture that you mentioned might be in here. We'll see.
Okay.
Christopher, are you there? This is my mom's nephew.
Sigrid. And that's Christopher.
That's right. That was me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Emily, a very happy birthday to you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to wish you happy birthday because I think in life sometimes we really don't know how much we impact other people or touch other people's lives. And this is a nice opportunity for me to tell you how you impacted and touched my life. Because it was a very long time ago that we knew each other on a regular basis, but you've always stayed in my memory. And that is because, you know, as a child, I have some of the most wonderful memories of you as a really caring and giving person. Everything from the Christmases that we spent in each family's houses to listening to the words of wisdom that you would give your daughter, Sarah. I remember you're looking at what words of wisdom? To in the family car rides and to the fact that my very first time that I ever had a sleepover was actually at your house with Scott and Will, and you made us all chocolate chip cookies and let me have Coca-Cola, which for an 8-year-old is about as good as it gets. And but seriously, and as a final memory, I remember seeing you speak and give a wonderful storytelling presentation at the museum below the arch. And I just remember thinking, ha, that's my aunt. So thank you for your wonderful personality and a very happy birthday.
Christopher, thank you. And I have to say, your wife has been posting on Facebook wonderful anecdotes about Adelaide growing up. And I can tell what a marvelous family you have and what an eye and sensitivity she has for that which makes a kid absolutely adorable. I love every post you've made.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Tracy.
Oh, we see on the other.
And now, Chris's sister, Katie.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, and see you.
Okay, I'm going to make it a little louder so you guys can hear me. Emily, happy birthday. Happy 80th.
Thank you.
I hope I'm as energetic and vivacious as you are at 80.
Oh, that's
I was asking my mom about some memories she had of you, and she said she remembered how delighted and joyful you were when you had your first child, which was Sarah. She just remembered how joyous you were and just so excited to be a mom. My memory of you is playing tennis when I was very young, and you whipped my booty on the court. I mean,
how tactless.
Oh, yeah, I know. You are so good, and I think your son Will probably inherited some of those physical abilities as well, because he's a good player. But you were just such a jock. But really, you have such a zest and vivaciousness for life, and I really feel like you. It's like you dive into the pool of life head first. It's like you just embrace it and go for it and let the cards fall where they may. And that really is, I think, your gift is that you just embrace everything wholeheartedly.
Oh, Katie, I feel relieved to hear you say that, because I still live with guilt at having taken you to the Elizabeth Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston when you were quite young. And we looked at the statue that was at the base of a column. And do you remember this?
No.
Okay, there was a guy there with a lion, and the lion's mouth was open, and he was enclosing the man's head. And you asked me, what's going to happen next? And I was a little stumped. And finally, truth won out, and I said, I think he's going to bite the man's head off. And I don't think it's what you wanted to hear at 5 years old or whatever you were at the time. But it was very memorable that we had our own visit to the museum.
Cool.
Thanks.
I'm also drinking a toast to you. It's a Red Bull from work.
well, you're getting a head start on that vivaciousness.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Next
and
up,
Scott, I assume that's me and Katie in the picture you just flipped back at Macy's wedding.
Yeah.
I assume so
That
too.
was-
I'm not, it's a little blurry.
I think so.
I think it's at Macy's wedding.
Yes.
That's what I was
Yes.
hoping.
Yeah. Great picture.
Next is Elizabeth Miles.
Hello. So that little girl playing the trumpet is me, and that is about how old I was when Aunt Emily was in St. Louis. The story that I'm going to tell is from a couple of years ago. I think it was about 7.5 years ago, and I was walking through Harvard Yard. I was kind of cutting diagonally to go to the Harvard Museum of Natural History to teach some students a botanical drawing. And so we were walking, and I'm not very organized, and so I was really focused on getting from point A, which was the Cambridge Adult Education Center, to point B, which is the Harvard Natural History Museum, without getting lost. And I was trying to talk to students at the same time. And I lost, all of a sudden, I kind of lost concentration, and I saw a woman I recognized walking through next to me, and I yelled, "Aunt Emily." Can you hear me?
Yes, I'll never forget the moment.
And I said,
it was the best moment of my 50th college reunion.
And I think I stopped short. And if you stop short in Cambridge, in Harvard Yard, I got hit by my students, like I got rear-ended. And it was wonderful because then you yelled Gaga, and it was wonderful. And so we've had coffee after that, and we've had coffee since, and it's been lovely. But it was like we had not lost any time in 30 odd years. So it was wonderful, and it's so glad to have you back when I get to see you in Cambridge.
Wonderful. Thanks, Liz.
Next is Liz's sister, Mary Chin.
Hi, sound check.
Sound check to sound real good.
Love it, love it. Happy birthday, Auntie M. I want to first thank you for creating 3 of the most special humans in my life. My relationship to my older cousins has always been something that I have cherished, and know that from the stories that some of your cousins have told, that you cherish the extended family as well. I often have conversations with folks and they say, who's in your immediate family? And I say, oh, I have 11 cousins on my Thatch side and 16 on the Bond side. And they say, I said immediate family. And I was like, yeah, still 11 and 16, I'm good. And so those extended relationships have been really so valuable in my life. The other thing that I wanted to thank you for is setting an example of how to be a woman at the table amongst the Thatch brothers. You have been a shining example of grace and strength and power, and I appreciate having such a wonderful example of how to be in a room with a lot of balderdash, we'll put it that way, and still have a place at the table. So I've spent a lot of time trying to fit into that table, and I know that I've done so with you paving many roads ahead of me. My best memories of you as a child are filled with wonder and magic as you wildly gesticulate and tell a story. And to truly be a storyteller in this world is one of the most amazing talents. And as much as I wish that you could be in my life every day and know my children, I feel grateful that your legacy of storytelling lives on through your amazing sons and their published books and the books that we read to my children. So thank you for your power, your grace, your energy, your love. You touched me when you showed up at our grandmother Movers' funeral. That must have been a very difficult place for you to be, but you were there truly to support our generation. And I will never forget how safe and comfortable and loved I felt. So thank you. As Chris said, sometimes we don't always know how we affect other people, but my Auntie M is very, very special to me, and I wish you the happiest of 80th birthdays.
Thank you, Liz.
Mary, thank you so much. And that, before we move on from St. Louis, actually, DC is our next destination. Is there anybody else from St. Louis who I didn't give a chance to speak? Okay, because we've got a lot of people in DC.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, sorry.
This is us. If we could just throw in a few seconds. Sorry, I missed the memo about sending pictures, but here we are. Happy birthday, Emily. Many, many happy returns. I too have to ditto what Chef said about hugs. There's nothing like an Emily hug, nothing in the world. And secondly, I also have an example of a wonderful mother story. I was a new mom living in a new city. I didn't have family or friends around, but we did see Emily from time to time. And I remember camping. I think my oldest, Liz, who just spoke, was 4 or 5 months old, and we were camping in Vermont. And we started talking about, oh, it's so cold. And Emily gave me my first maternal lesson about what to do with a child. She said, oh, stick that baby in the bottom of your sleeping bag and use it as a foot warmer. So that's one of my favorite memories of Emily.
Barb, thanks. The one thing I wanted to stop Scott to say is please send my love to Barb and Brad and to Bob. And I have many fond memories of Christmases together, of lots of happy times at Danbury together. She's muted again.
Oops. Barb, I think I might have accidentally muted you. Oh, there we go. Can you unmute yourself again, Barb?
Okay, here's Brad.
Happy birthday, Em.
Thanks, Brad.
I remember one of the best meals I ever had was we were at Indian River, and we had fresh trout caught in a net that had been stretched across the inlet, and we had hard-shell clams and also corn. I don't know whether we paid for corn or not.
No, we just picked it.
We just picked it out on a farmer's field. Anyway, it was a great meal.
Good.
Thank you, Brad. And thank you, Barb. Can you guys see the, I just got a message. Can you guys see the slide still? And if everybody could mute themselves, because there's somebody I think who might have a phone and a computer on, which is creating a little bit of a oral feedback thing. Okay, great, thank you. So in DC, there's a large roster, and we're going to start with somebody who's texting me. I hope he can participate. It's Okihide Neko Hikusaka. He just emailed me, and I'm not sure that he's able to get in. So I'm going to give them a moment to see if they can speak. Okihide, are you there? I actually have what he said as well, so I could read it, but me reading it is not as good as Okihide is saying it. So let me try to call him and see if I can get him through my phone to speak to everybody. Apparently not. You can bear with me for 1 sec.
While Scott does technology, this is a picture I just cherish. When Bob and I were first married in 1983, we went to Japan, and Okihide and Naeko were our host and hostess. And this is the two of them with Tomo, who's now 30-something, and Mona on Okihide's back, who was about 4 at the time, and was just this adorable child that I didn't know what to bring as a house guest present. So I bought Mona a picture book in English. And she knew no English, and I knew no Japanese, but she knew about sitting on an older lady's lap and turning pages and having a good time together. So that book reading together has been a bonding experience. It's glued us together ever since. I have no idea if anyone can hear.
Can you guys hear?
You, yes.
Okihide, can you speak? Can you hear Okihide?
No.
I don't
Scott,
think
there's a box marked
I don't
OA.
think I can hear you, but I can read what you sent me. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, I'll hang up and read what you sent. All right, thank you, Okihide. Oh, you guys can hear me. Good. So he sent me a description of each one of these pictures. So first of all, hi Emily, you always make Naeko and me so happy. This photo was very old, 1983, I think. 1 year after we came back to Japan from NIH. Then Emily and Bob visited Japan and went to a mountain in Hakone with my family members Naeko, Tomo, and Mona. Tomo wore a shirt from NIH. You can see that right there. Then we stayed in a Japanese hotel. This is the room of Emily and Bob. They were sitting in kotatsu and drinking Japanese tea. You can sit in kotatsu and sleep because it's so comfortable. Then we had Japanese food. Emily and Bob used hashi to eat gohan and sashimi. They were surprisingly skillful. Then all of our family members decided to come back to America in 2002. Emily and Nako were very happy to be together. We were in Chincoteague, a wonderful place of Emily and Bob. They enjoyed visiting many areas using a canoe. This was in July. We visited Chincoteague, the Chincoteague house again, the same year, 2004, but in winter, with all family members, Tomo and Mona. There was snow, but it was so nice. All of us were so happy to be with Emily and Bob in this exciting day. Happy birthday, Emily, from Mona, Tomo, Nako, and Okahide.
That's great.
So I'm
That's
sorry
a
that
wonderful
Okahide
picture.
couldn't have been the one to read that. But Okahide, if you can hear me, thank you so much for sending such wonderful photos. Now we come to Jenny Mahoney, who is Mom and Bob's next door neighbor and a dear friend for many decades. Jenny, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm very lucky to be Emily's next door neighbor because I benefit in so many ways, especially when she has an overflow of food. She sends it my way, and she's a fantastic cook. And for years, we went to studio theater as part of a threesome that was a cherished memory. But I think the most important part is Emily has been such an inspiration of how to be a good person and a good neighbor. So I cherish the fact that you guys live next door, and I'm so fortunate. And I want to wish you the happiest of birthdays, Emily, because I love you.
Thanks.
I'm so jealous of this wonderful family you have. I've
They
learned
are.
so much that I didn't know.
But you have a wonderful family too.
Thank
And
you.
I saw Jamie and Petra today.
You're right, right.
They've been great.
They have been wonderful. So,
Thank you,
so
Jenny.
happy birthday.
Another dear friend from the neighborhood, Janet Lowenthal, is with us.
Here, I just unmuted, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, happy birthday, Emily. Emily and I have known each other for a long time. We first met when we were freshmen in college in Comstock Hall, and then we also, as sophomores, were in the same, I think, 4 or 5 person history tutorial. And after that, there was a very long hiatus until in 1983 or 4, Emily moved smack into my neighborhood in Chevy Chase, Maryland. And another college classmate tipped me off to the fact that Emily was moving close by, and we had kids more or less the same age who became very, very good friends. And then Emily and I became really good friends as adults, both with and without our wonderful spouses. And over time, Emily and I evolved this great tradition. We would go to political rallies, or sometimes we would do political canvassing, like in the 2018 election, we stayed overnight in Pennsylvania. And we would do all of this political stuff. And then at the end, we would go out and have a gourmet, either lunch or dinner. And that seemed like the perfect way to end our public-spirited political work. I fervently hope that we will be able to do this again, Emily. I don't know what the COVID-19 means for any future political work together, but in the spirit of you, the most positive person I have ever known, I'm hoping we'll have more opportunities to do this together. But happy birthday and a big hug in the meantime.
Thank you so much. I remember we joined the Federal Union people, or the AFT, marching across Washington in support of the Affordable Care Act.
Right, right.
And had lunch at Vidalia.
At Vidalia, right.
We went and allowed ourselves to be props for Governor O'Malley on a cold, windy day in Annapolis.
Remember
and
that.
for a seafood gourmet meal in Annapolis. And then George Scott is the guy that we worked for in 2018, and he's running again.
He's running again.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, no, I know. And the last time we had a delicious meal after it was this fall. We went with Bob. I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember what we were making a ruckus about on either 270 or Old Georgetown Road. And then we had this wonderful dinner at the Belgian restaurant in Olney. Remember?
Yes, we were trying to attract, it had to do again with the Affordable Care Act, I think. Trump was about to try to decimate some part of it, and we were getting people to honk.
Yeah.
But Bob was also with us in Norfolk, door-to-door canvassing for
That's right.
Obama.
That's right. After my car hit the deer.
The gourmet meal.
Yeah.
It's a great combination, Janet.
Indeed. Indeed it is. Long may it wave.
I once did a climate march and then had some hot chocolate afterwards. So I'm getting the kiddie version. Thank you, Janet.
Mom, Boo, and I marched for women's rights and then had tea at some fancy hotel downtown.
I remember going with you and Boo and finding this middle-aged woman who perceived herself to be a Republican in her DNA, but she just couldn't bear the anti-abortion stance of her party. And I remember Boo comforting her and saying, it's okay, you can break with the party this once and you'll still be all right.
Next, we have a bunch of friends from Lab and Life, starting with Lance and Donna Opticon.
Hi, Emily. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Donna.
We're just so happy that you are in our lives. You've just definitely increased our enjoyment of life. Your wonderful generosity, and we've had such wonderful times in Bethesda and Potomac and Chickateague and on trips. One trip in particular, I remember, our husbands were at a meeting in Cold Spring Harbor, and you and I decided to drive up and surprise them. And we drove to Cold Spring Harbor, which is on Long Island. And we also decided, you and I wanted to see Long Island. So we decided to drive all the way to the tip of Long Island, which is Montauk. And that's where Bob gave Lance the moniker Lance of Montauk. And in these pictures, I included the one in the center because it's so beautiful. And the one on the left, I thought really captured your essence. So I loved that one. And the one on the right was a Chickateague. You and Bob were so relaxed, even though you had 6 house guests. So we've had wonderful, you and I have had some wonderful lunches together, and I hope after COVID that will happen again.
Thanks. I look forward to it.
I'll turn you over to Lance.
Lance of Montauk.
Lance of Montauk.
I just always think of Emily as having widest smile and the fullest heart. And it's been a joy to spend time with you and Bob. And we will be surviving the COVID crisis and being able to get together again.
For a hug.
So happy birthday, and we wish you many more.
Thank you.
Next is Fred and Jennifer Miles.
Oh, hello, Emily. I've been preempted somewhat, having 20 speakers ahead of me. I wanted something quintessentially Emily, and I decided, along with Chef Otis and Barb Thatch, that it was really your hug. You are a world-class hugger, like no other one I've ever met. If hugging was an Olympic event, Emily would get the gold medal. She is second to none. She's also an equal opportunity hugger. She doesn't play favorites. Everybody gets the full treatment. The trouble is, coronavirus comes along.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is a catastrophe. So the best we can do, Emily, is a virtual hug. I'm not in your class, Emily, but here's my virtual hug.
You got it, Fred.
Congratulations and welcome to the club.
And Emily, I am totally I've always been in awe of you, but just watching what people have said and listening to what people have said to you tonight, I realize even more how fortunate I am, me, to have you as a good friend. I value you, I love you, and I will share Fred with a hug as well. So happy birthday, Emily.
You're my inspiration as a friend and a cook.
Thank you both. Now, this next one, I apologize that I could not get a picture of Debbie, but I could not pass up this picture of these two young teens who appear to have invented the first computer. So, Vicki, if you're there, the floor is yours.
Do you want to put it over?
It's here, make it see.
Yeah, no, but there's a photo. No.
Unmute. Okay. So Debbie is playing with her grandchild, who is visiting our grandchild, who's visiting New York, and couldn't make it to this festival, but wishes Emily the happiest of birthdays. I first entered Wurtz World in 1969. And you could say a lot of things about Bob. He's brilliant and witty and hardworking, very hardworking. But the one thing, the way you could not describe him as, was blissfully happy. And I never quite understood that. I went off, did a neurology residency, came back. Bob became the chief of the Laboratory of Sensory Motor Research. I joined it. And I spent a number of years as vice chief of the Laboratory of Sensory Motor Research in charge of frivolity. No blissful happiness. On my 40th birthday, my mother-in-law wanted me to come there for brunch. And I was not very blissfully happy about that, turning 40 and having to go to my mother-in-law's. Got to my mother-in-law's apartment, and there was Bob and this beautiful woman. It was Emily. And for the first time, I realized that Bob was blissfully happy, which he has been more or less continuously for the last 40 years because of Emily. And I've been very lucky to have wonderful times with Bob and Emily, because scientists go traveling all over the world if they're lucky, and we've eaten Michelin-starred meals and on every continent except for Antarctica. And I moved to New York about 20 years ago on the same subway line as the Metropolitan Opera. And one of the true joys in my life was to have opera parties with Emily. We would have a great meal. We would see a wonderful opera. We would sit around our dining room table dissecting the performance and drinking scotch. And Bob was blissfully happy. Emily was wonderful. Good humor. And so I want to wish Emily a wonderful, happy birthday. And I also want to thank her for making my life better.
Thank you, Vicki. We wouldn't have Chincoteague without you.
That's right. That's right. You caught the bug from us.
Yes, absolutely. Scott, I think
Yes.
that Okehide may be on now.
Yes.
Okehide, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Shall I go back to your slides, Okehide?
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you, Okehide, but we can't see you.
Oh,
You need
no.
Tap on.
I have been watching you for a long time.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Well, here are your slides.
Yeah, so Michael and I are here. We are very happy.
So are we.
So I tried 2 systems, but I couldn't somehow. But I have been watching you and other people. Very nice. Happy birthday.
I have very nice children.
Ed and Marlene, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the first, we just want to wish you a happy birthday and really enjoy all the trips. This picture here is from an epic trip that we had to Patagonia with all the people there. That's Perito Moreno. Here's another one. Actually, did you do all of them? There's a lot of them. So I just added up all the pictures that we had. Yeah, we just keep going.
Keep going.
Anyway, this is all different parts. Well, this isn't. That's Carol. So anyway, but we had a great. That was one of our trips. We've been to Chincoteague. That was wonderful. So just we enjoy everything that you've added to all our trips, including hugs. And I'll second the thing that Ginny said. That was you're a great cook even when you don't use recipes. I had to get that in,
And one of the memories seared in my heart was trying to prepare a spaghetti dish with tuna for Okehide when he was arriving in the lab. And we ran out and I needed to make more. And so I cooked more spaghetti. And then there was a question of the seasoning on the sauce. And you thought we might look at the recipe and follow it and add what it said to add. And instead I just poured from the soy thing. And you were so sweet and patient. You said, oh, I see how you're gonna do it. And for anybody who's a lab scientist, it would take a great deal of forbearance to watch that cavalier attitude.
It came out wonderful.
Well, Emily, I think people talk about your hugs, but I think it's your smile that I think of first. I never see you without a smile, and your cheerfulness and your easygoing attitude when you're hostessing a dinner or going on an epic trip like Patagonia. Every day you had a smile on your face, no matter the weather, no matter the distance we had to climb or hike, and the conditions we had to, hike under. So I love your easygoing attitude towards life. And I think of the quote, "A life well lived," when I think of you, that you've had a wonderful life. And
but it's not over yet.
Not over yet, no. But 80 years, that's a milestone. And it sounds like it's been wonderful, a wonderful 80 years. So happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
Next up is Bruce and Carol. And apologies, Bruce, I don't know if you got my email, but I couldn't make the video play. So it's just the picture. But they also shared a video of Mom, which I'll share with you afterwards.
Okay, great, thank you. Happy birthday, Emily.
Thank you, Bruce.
It's been wonderful to know you all these years. It's such a shame we can't meet in person, because one of the things about Emily, which several people have commented on, is if there's a conversation, it doesn't matter who else is there. If Emily's in the conversation, it will be interesting and meaningful and memorable. And we've had so many of those, it's been wonderful. Mostly, or many of those have been at Chincoteague, but I can remember many in many other places. Particularly, I remember we were on a scientific trip to China, and as part of this trip, we went on an excursion which involved a long coach ride. And so I entered the coach with some trepidation. The one in when we went to see the Venice in China. Golly, Emily doesn't even remember this coach ride. Never mind. Never mind. So when you go on these long coach rides at scientific meetings, I always get on the coach with some degree of trepidation because I'm not quite sure who I'm going to be sitting next to. And it turns out I was sitting next to Emily on this coach ride. I remember thinking, yes, I got the best seat on the bus. And we had such a wonderful time talking all the way to wherever this place was. I remember being with you more than the rest of the trip. And it's so sad you don't even remember because this was just another day. And one of the other wonderful things about Emily is it doesn't matter if you disagree, it'll still be a wonderful conversation. And occasionally Emily will say the most ridiculous things like ponies are overrated.
I'll never live that down.
So happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
And yes, for 20 years, we would go to Chincoteague and have a wonderful time. Emily, you're a role model to me in so many different ways, except for when you did once say, these ponies are overrated.
I did say it. And Carol, forgive me, I even thought it.
I know. And then I realized after that, even though Emily thinks she knows what she thinks, sometimes she discovers she was wrong. So recently. So, you know, Emily, you have wonderful opinions and a wonderful way of looking at the world, and thank you for sharing that with us.
And Carol, we can't move on. I hope your mom's doing well, and I think it's wonderful you have this time with her.
Yes, and our mom as well. So,
are you in California right now?
Bruce and I are in Nevada right now. We're in Reno, Nevada, having a little break. My sister is in one.
Okay, great.
So, we'll see you.
Anyway, thank you for joining us.
Kevin.
Yeah, I know.
Next is another one of Mom's friends from, not from the neighborhood, but from close by, Lucy Freeman.
Yeah, hi. I've met Emily when she moved, 37 years ago to Somerset. And Emily's a special friend. She always makes me feel good. When I walk down the street and I see her outside her house and a big smile, you know, it is really nice. How many phone banks have we done together? How much canvassing, registering voters? But then there are the questions we try to answer, like, how do you understand the people who voted for Trump? Why did they do it? And here's where we are now. How do you understand what is anti-racism and all the books about that? And what will we learn if we read all those books? And who else would ask me, hey, Lucy, do you want to go to the lynching memorial in Annapolis? Or do you want to go to the reconciliation meeting in Silver Spring? You know, it's just so nice to have Emily as a friend. And happy birthday.
Okay.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Lucy is my precinct chair. She is precinct chair of the Democratic Party for our area.
And Lucy, you live on Dorset?
I lived on Dorset, and then in October I moved to Fallstone.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I moved to same block, but two streets away.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you. Gail, are you with us?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Good. Yeah. Oh, I live on Dorset. Emily, I wanted to welcome you to the 80s. And I wish you every good thing as you zoom through the next 80 years. I look forward to spending more time with you, listening to your insightful comments at our book group, which is where I really got to know you. Our children kind of knew each other at Somerset Elementary. I look forward to going out to more lunches with you and to hear all about your wonderful volunteer activities. So I send you much life, much love to my dear young friend. Happy
Thank you, Gail. We've been saying we're going to get together for lunch for 10, 15 years, and now we really have to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Gail. Now we go back into the nuclear family, starting nuclear. I get corrected on that. Beginning with William Wurtz, if you're there, my mom's stepson.
Yeah, I'm here.
Favorite stepson.
Oh, favorite stepson. Well, thank you. Happy birthday, Emily.
Thank you.
Has it really been 40 years that you've been in my life? Wow. Well, just to be honest about it, I'm still a little suspicious. The Wurtzes are a little bit more serious and not quite as happy as the Thatches. And I was very concerned. You had 3 kids, right? And you're thinking, well, let's see. Wow, they're really boring. And I got rid of my husband. Why don't I go get a couple more kids and another husband and just see how that goes again? Because I don't have enough on my plate now.
It was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Well, I was just concerned that, you know, Wurtzes can't handle over positiveness. So just, Janet, you might have been onto something. She could have been stalking you with her positivity. And just so you all know, I want to be upfront about this. Emily has sent me a pair of underwear. I recently purchased a bicycle, and she's so overly positive that she felt like she could buy me some padded underwear for my bicycle. So we're really tight now. We pulled together as a family, and I accept all of her personal gifts, which I can't divulge all of them. But anyway, happy birthday, Emily.
Thank you, William.
Thanks, William. And now William's sister, Erica. Erica Brayton, I got your name wrong. Sorry about that, Erica. Formerly Wurtz.
Well, no, I think she's still Wurtz. She didn't change her name when she got married.
Oh, good. All right. My bad.
This is an adorable picture I've never seen before.
Okay. And now more serious Wurtzes.
Have you unmuted?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, she's gone.
When Gavin was 5 years old,
Oh, she's here.
he was obsessed with anteaters. Emily, you helped him find the anteater exhibit at the Washington Zoo when we visited DC. We spent a long time with primates, but Emily finally found the anteater exhibit, and Gavin was thrilled. Now, as college looms in the future for Gavin, I am reminded that during my gap year, you took an interest and you took time in helping me apply for college. Not only did you help me get organized and apply, you took me on a long weekend road trip all over New England to visit colleges. The trip was complete with car trouble and driving as far west as Ohio.
Another fond memory that we have was visiting DC during cherry blossom season. And I remember Emily walking us over to a neighborhood that was just overflowing with blossoms. It was a difficult time for our family, but just going to that part of the city really helped a lot. And I also remember after losing my mom, Emily saying, well, you know, you're not alone, Bill, you still have a family. And that made a lot of difference to me, so I really appreciated that. So, and I agree with Maddie, all along the way there have been very thought-provoking questions. So we appreciate that. So happy birthday, Emily.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill and Erica. Oh, I left one picture out. You gave me so many great pictures, Erica. Thank you so much.
I love these pictures, and these are new to me.
That's the boat. That's the boat.
Famous boat.
And now my mom's daughter, my sister Sarah.
And my whole family, but I'm going to go first. So becoming a mom gave me new insights and appreciations into Emily Otis Wurtz. As a mother, we're both moms of 3, but she is a double black diamond. She's an excellent skier, and she's a double black diamond parent as well, because she had her 3 in less than 2 years. And so some of the things I've learned about mom from a parent's perspective is that she is not a whiner, but is incredibly generous. And it wasn't easy having 3 kids under the age of 2. And she didn't complain about it at the time, but she was very eager to help me. Long before I had a partner, she wanted to help me with my kids. And I was nervous that I'd never find a partner. And she said, okay, well, I'll just help you with your plants. I want to help you with your plants. And that was very sweet of her to be supportive of me. She's been incredibly generous financially. Her idea of vacation is bringing us all on adventures all over the world. I'm sorry that we're not in Yellowstone right now or Grand Tetons. She was an incredibly fun parent with young kids. I was very proud to every year have her come into my classroom and tell a story. And I felt like a celebrity because of her storytelling in class. She set a lot of limits on sugar, but we learned early on as kids that if we asked her if she would make fudge, that was sugar she was always going to say yes to. So we ate obscene amounts of fudge in our childhood because that was sugar she would allow. And she just had fun adventures with us. And then the other thing that's very quintessential Emily, in addition to super hugs, is the importance of family. And Bob and I used to tease her mercilessly because whenever we all got together, she would say, I'm so glad we're all together. And, you know, I would love to be in Yellowstone right now, but if we were, we wouldn't all be together. And I'm so glad we're all together through this. Next, it's going to be my partner, Daisy, then our oldest, Otis, Miles, and Rustin.
Excellent.
I'm Daisy, and I'm Sarah's partner. And I met Emily 20 years ago. Sarah called her right after we met. Sarah and I had a whirlwind romance. And Sarah called her mom and said she met somebody and we were going to get married and we were going to have kids and we were going to do this and we were going to do that. And oh, by the way, it's a woman. And I thought that's when the conversation would go off the rails, but it didn't. And Emily has welcomed me with open arms from day one and just very loving and generous. And happy birthday, Emily. We love you from down here. Otis?
Hey, Nana.
Hi, Otis. Are you still driving?
Yeah, I'm about to get my license in about a week.
So excited for you. That's great.
About a week ago, Mama told me that I had to think up of a memory, one of the many good memories with Nana, and I knew immediately that I was going to talk about the Three Musketeers. And we read that book maybe 4 or 5 times to the point where we could just like memorize every scene. And I don't know, that was just my happy place. I love reading that book with you.
I loved it too. It was so incredibly silly. They would sit down for a picnic before having a battle. I loved that.
Happy birthday. Love you guys.
Love you.
Hi,
Miles.
My favorite memory is when you and Grandbob, we were at the lab and I got to see the monkey and the apple juice.
How the monkey liked drinking the apple juice. Oh, Okahite, who's on the call, showed you the monkey.
We were so glad because, Miles, we weren't sure how much you were enjoying it. It was a very grown-up tour you had of a scientific laboratory. And it was just hard to tell because you weren't that old. So I'm really glad if you liked it.
Happy birthday, Nana. We love you.
Thank you, Miles. Oh, I love that.
Rustin and Gorilla are feeling kind of shy. So you'll have to admire his stuffed gorilla. So you'll have to admire the picture. And
I love the picture.
That is Rustin on the extreme left there.
Yes.
Oh, Sarah, you have such
if you
those boys.
I'm gonna contact you.
Love you, Nana.
Okay.
Bye. Drive carefully, Otis.
I will.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Now my brother, Will Thatch.
Good. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay. So this picture is taken in Mexico, and Mom and Bob, like Sarah was saying, have taken us on so many amazing adventures. They took me to Africa, and we saw incredible things in East Africa, Mexico, and on. And like they said, we were supposed to be in Yellowstone. And so I wanted to tell you about one adventure I went on, or a visit I had with my mom, which shows what an incredible mom she was. And it wasn't an adventure exactly, it was more of a misadventure. So after I lost my house in the fires, my family rallied around. They were amazing. So my brother, my sister, and my mom all dropped everything they were doing, and they came out to California to take care of me. And they spent about a week here and got me back on my feet. And then they all had to go back to their lives. And several months later, I was living in Topanga with a woman I met after the fires. And I was having a hard time. I talked to my mom, and she volunteered to come out and take care of me again. So she booked an Airbnb, and she flew out, and I met her down on the coast, and we drove up in tandem to her Airbnb. And it was at the end of a very long, very windy, very steep, dark, unpaved road. And at the top of this road was one of the most horrendous dumps I have ever seen. It was, to understand how bad it was, you have to understand Topanga used to be ground zero for the hippie revolution around Los Angeles. And this was some leftover love shack from the 1960s. It looked like it was built out of popsicle sticks and paper mache. There was no right angles. It was completely organic. I think it might have had a dirt floor. There were light bulbs hanging from the ceiling, just naked. And I felt terrible leaving Mom there. And to make it worse, it was horrendous weather. So it was freezing cold. The walls were about 2 inches thick. And it started to rain, and that huge driveway turned into a 6-inch deep river of mud. So I told Mom, I was like, Mom, you know, I couldn't switch because of my living condition. So I told her, Mom, you know, maybe you want to, you know, upgrade or move somewhere else or find a hotel. But Mom, being a good Minnesota girl, would not have it. And she stayed in that dump the entire time, never complained, and came to me in my lovely little guest house and took care of me the whole time. So it was absolutely amazing. She got me through the roughest patches I've been through. And I love you very, very much. And I wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you, Will.
Oh, Will, man, you remind me of so many other stories that I could tell, but I could never make them through them the way you just did. But Mom is always there for you in a pinch. But going back to what my cousin Mary had said about my mom's storytelling, and that was a big part of her life for a while. She was a professional storyteller and filled our house with other wonderful storytellers. And beyond that, her love of literature and theater and New Yorker cartoons and everything else added a lot to our childhood and had a huge impact on me. So in that vein, I wrote a short 1-minute poem for my mom, and I'm glad I strategically spaced so much time between mine and Todd's, so I'm not really walking in your footsteps, Todd. But this is a brief poem for my mom. If all the world's a stage, then every life begins a story. And great ones grow beyond their authors, covering all in glory. But what makes stories truly great? Let's take the letter E that starts off words like eloquence and names like Emily. Enthusiasm, finding joy in all the small details, and worth in every valiant fight, whatever it avails. Empathy, for every life the author shines her light on, that forms a halo wide enough for all souls to reside on. Exploration, ever onward, looking inward too, and sharing what she finds with friends, then striking out anew. Endurance, for the tale is long, if not quite never ending, and the promises of every page, like planted flowers, need tending. It's hard to bring such traits to life and bind them to each other, but woven tightly, they unfold the story of our mother. Happy birthday, Mom.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much. Sarah, for a minute ago, I saw Rustin. Is he back in?
I think he's feeling shy.
Okay, fine. I knew he felt
This is a
shy.
big stage.
Okay, fine. Okay.
We only have one more, but it's a good one.
Last but not least.
Am I pronouncing that right?
Well, let me tell you, Scott, that Scott and your siblings, if you wanted to plan something that would warm Emily's heart and produce a birthday she would never forget, you have succeeded in doing so. You have hit the buttons that drive Emily, that she loves, and you can't imagine how much she's enjoyed this, and it's wonderful that you're able to record it. Now, I've been living with Emily for 38 years, 37 legal. And there are some historical points that have come up in this presentation that need just slight clarification. I think Danny Richie has probably disappeared by now, but he pointed to the successful walks that I had with Emily when she first visited Washington some 39 years ago. And he left out one aspect, and that was that at the end of the walk, before she was going back to St. Louis the next day, she said, "You know, I've had it with neurophysiologists." This did not bode well. But I figure either over time she mellowed a bit, or I became a neuroscientist rather than a neurophysiologist, because in the end, she's turned out to be the affable person that you all recognize. So the other thing is that told me a very interesting thing about Danny. I never really knew whether he actually worked for the World Bank or the CIA. And this here, because working for a World Bank, you just report the facts. CIA, you know what they're actually talking about. So he actually does work for the World Bank. Well, you know, it's one thing to admire Emily with all these youthful pictures, but how would you feel if you were married to a woman who was 80? This is her 80th birthday. And she was supposed to be a younger woman. And here she is 80. Probably the best summary is a modification of the Beatles, who said, will you still need me? Will you still feed me when you're 84? Which is what I am. And so far, she does continue to feed me. She doesn't really need me, but I've got her caught in this pandemic that she can't escape from. so that I'm incredibly happy. Emily is here all the time instead of dashing off and hugging numerous people. But the major hazard that I have to deal with is, suppose I leave the front door open sometime. If that's the case, she's gonna run out and hug the first person she's encountered. That's gonna be it. She's gonna hug someone with coronavirus. But I think the pandemic is going to last another year. I think this distancing is going to last that long. And I must say, each of us have little projects that we work on. Emily even does some gardening, and needless to say, she does all the wonderful cooking. But as far as I'm concerned, this is as close to heaven as I will ever get with someone I love dearly, Emily, and one that I spend all the time with. And while it is not true that she smiles all of the time, it is true that she smiles enough of the time to keep you happy and laughing. So this has been a wonderful experience for me to see all of the outpouring that is genuinely felt and totally deserved for the woman that I cherish more than anything else in the world. And now, as a special award from, we always end with awards.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Scott has provided you with a birthday cake.
I wish I could share it with you all.
Sarah can stop screen sharing. Hold on.
Now let's see if you can see it. Can you see that? No.
No, lift it a little. There you can see it. Or at least it shows up in our picture. Do you see it, Scott?
Yeah. I'm going to put it on speaker view. I don't know if that's going to impact anyone else.
This is,
I can see it. Yes.
We see it.
This is the view right before it slides off the plate.
And we eat it. Scott, thank you. That was delivered today.
Okay, and now the final exercise is Emily is going to blow out the candles.
Oh, all two of them. Oh. I'm glad you didn't get the magic kind that come back up again. Or did you? Is that about to come back up?
No.
Okay. When they get to, you get to be 80, they know that, that'll kill you.
That's correct.
Mom, I've got a slide for you now up. If there's anything else that you want to say, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to, since it's your birthday.
I am the luckiest woman alive. I have thought of my position in COVID, and it's as Bob said. We're in a house we love with a yard that gives us lots of things to do. Because of Zoom, bless Zoom, we're in touch with you kids once a week, which I love. It's the stuff that keeps me going. And I never dreamed that this call tonight would be this elegant display. I've meant to say hello to Barb and Brad. Please give my love to Bob as well, to Liz, to all of you, to Chris, and to thank Chris's wife for those wonderful Facebook postings that just keep me feeling part of the family. I'll never forget my 50th college reunion, walking across the campus. And I think the textbook says you're supposed to have someone call out your name in events like that. But it turned out to be Liz. And then we went out for coffee, and it was just a joy, a reminder and connection to all that we had done years ago. And I don't really believe the passage of time has to erode things. You can pick up where you left off. And this has been just a heartwarming evening of doing that with lots of people I care about. Thank you. And Scott, I know it takes some production. I know it takes a ton of work. Thank you for doing it. Namaste.
And she hugs all of you.
COVID has taught me that namaste is a good substitute. And I wrote that on the Christmas card prior to the COVID seeping into my consciousness. COVID was probably there, but I didn't know about it. But namaste is a pretty good substitute for the hug. And I have to confess one other thing, if Sarah were still around. She took me, not barn dancing, but line dancing once, and introduced me to a friend in this great big acoustical barn. And I shook his hand. This wasn't a hug, this was just a handshake. I didn't know he had osteoporosis. You could hear his bones. I hope they were just being rearranged, not broken. But they were really, really noisy. And he sort of jumped back and said, oh my God. And so then the question was, well, what's her handshake like? And the other people asked that I show them. And of course, you can't tell. It was spontaneous. I don't know how hard I usually do it, but evidently I do that pretty hard too. So a hug might be a safer alternative if I'm not into a namaste mode. But namaste to you all. Thank you all for taking time to do that. Sarah, do you remember the dancing?
I didn't, but I have a version that I'm sure Katie Otis will be very horrified by, this bastardization of namaste. But in March, when people weren't really learning how to social distance, I learned namaste away.
Happy birthday, sis.
Thank you all.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody for being part of this.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, Emily. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Emily.
May you get the real hugs for your 81st.
Yes.
That would be nice.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you,
Scott. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott.
Well done, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Is there anything you want to say before?
Thanks, Scott.
Happy birthday. Thanks, Scott.
We're off. Or we will be in a minute. There we go.
Did she blow out the candles?
She did. She did. We got an 8 and a 0 because 80 candles is a lot.
I know. You start a fire.
Or the
I think that technically is a fire.
Right. Scott is brilliant. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much for taking part.
Yeah. Sorry, I got muted.
It was wonderful.
Mickey, thanks so much for being on the call. It meant a lot.
Yeah.
Hello?
Absolutely.
And finding that picture of you was the highlight of the whole experience.
Yes. We all had long hair then.
For some reason,
you guys look great.
My thing was on mute, and so I couldn't say anything.
Oh, Robert.
But,
Bob.
I have to go to my grandchild. Bye-bye. Happy birthday, Emily.
And I was able to say happy birthday at the end.
Bob, I'm so glad. And Bob, I can hear you just fine. So this is making it onto the recording.
I think Bob's on the phone talking to Chris.
I'll hang up the phone and try again and see if I can.
Oh, Bob, we can hear you. Uncle Bob?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I'm afraid that I hit my mute button throughout most of the evening, but I did want to add my heartiest happy birthday to Emily and tell her that she's saved my wedding day from a dubious disaster and was able to cow my mother into good behavior and made Sigrid very, very happy.
Aww.
Well, you and Sigrid meant so much to her.
Well, Sigrid just worshipped her.
Mm.
But happy birthday, Em.
Thank you so much for chiming in, Bob. I'm so glad you didn't leave the call without saying that. That's going to mean so much to her.
Okay, I will say goodbye now.
All right.
Bye,
Great
Bob.
to hear you, Bob.